It's Mark Sanchez now. Let's bring him on as we are prone to do on Tuesdays.
How you doing, Joy?
What's up?
You good?
I'm great.
You
How are
want
you?
to talk about Vegas?
I don't want to talk about that now.
You sure?
I'll tell you another time.
We're here.
It's okay.
A couple of ears to listen.
You know what? America has to have a, wholesome-ish.
Yeah, we got to pretend like we're.
Yeah.
So I was telling. It was weird. This is just me being weird. But I watched. Do we have the OBJ clips last night with his catches?
Yes.
Just the way he caught the ball and came out of the break. I said, we forget this. Stuff takes time.
Oh, yeah.
So Woods gets hurt. They move Van over to Robert Woods' position. You move from this, okay, we got to find a new X receiver. And then Odell comes in. You got to hit him snaps. And it was like last night watching him. Mm-hmm. And just the way he comes out, and I watched how he just kind of confidently catches it. He felt like very in sync.
He hit his top speed in like the last 4 seasons or something. I read that in an article.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, since his tear.
So
since
he's
his
playing.
ACL tear.
So last night he played the fastest he's played.
Correct.
So that's what, when I watched them play, I'm like, oh, they're good now.
It's hold on.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's the message they portrayed. I think it's still a work in progress. That was one of their highlights and a highlight type night. But for them to do it with all those circumstances going into that game. Finding out Sunday, Havenstein's out, your right tackle, and then
Higbee, your tight end.
Higbee and Ramsey on Monday. Like, how many times? Okay, so the day of usually the night before the game, you have your meeting with the coaches, and you kind of go through, basically how you want to script your first 15
call sheet
and your call sheet, and it's, like it, love it, hate it. Hey, just get this out. It didn't look good all week. Whatever. Your coach might try and convince you of it one more time. Hey, just give it a chance. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Well, you go through that meeting. As soon as you lose your tight end, especially in an offense like this, you got to go through and X some stuff out, break out the wide out. Let's add some stuff here. Okay, how are we going to formate this to get somebody in Higbee's position that can do that? Or do we abandon that concept altogether because he's out? That's a lot of mental gymnastics. And for a guy in the first year of a system with Matt Stafford and McVay, like the first year of that marriage, come on now. That was impressive. To come out like that, that was impressive.
It was interesting. It was one of those games. This happens. The Rams wouldn't be better long-term without their right tackle, their tight end, and Jalen Ramsey.
Right.
But there are these weird moments among a band of brothers, and you put them together, and you're missing people. You college or pro, did you have a moment like this? I've told the story before. I was a very bad high school quarterback. 7 starters were kicked off our bus. My coach, Steve Bridge, came in as we're getting on the bus to face the number 1 team in state. He gets on the bus and he said, boom, 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 you're out. You were at a party last night. And I'm like, that's my fullback. That's my receiver. And I'm like, we're going to get crushed. We won in overtime. And there was a fear.
Right.
Okay, so obviously I stink. But there had to have been a moment in your life, in your football life, where there's a weird thing about sports. I don't know if it's fear-driven, but I watched the Rams last night. They literally played a perfect game.
Well,
there were no penalties, turnovers.
Yeah. It's as if everybody just felt it, and they knew, hey, we're a couple guys down.
No drops.
Tighten up. All right, everybody, tighten up. I need you at your best. And it was clear. I mean, look at the D-line. Von Miller didn't have all these big stats and a sack or anything, but you felt him. He was there. He caused a little pressure. Boom, and there's Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd getting interceptions. Aaron Donald wrecking the backfield. It's like they knew. They knew exactly what was going on. Hey, we might need some help in the back end here, covering guys because Jalen's gone.
Right.
Let's go. Let's speed up the time clock here. Let's not mess around.
It's really interesting.
It's almost like when you're sick. When you're like a little sick and you got to go play. Like I've always had my best games when I'm sick.
Isn't that funny?
Always. It's just like the rest of your body's like, all right, like all your cells just align. And they're like, all right, boys, get in formation. Yes, sir.
Should I be? I said this before. If you look at Arizona, if the game becomes a track meet, they're 8-0 this year, 30 points or more. When the game shrinks and it's in the 20s, both to the Packers and the Rams, they kind of unraveled late in games.
I think part of it is the Rams try to do a little bit of a keep away from their offense, from Kyler Murray. Just keep him off the field, which means you got to sustain drives, which means you got to, stick to the run game. And how about Sony Michel? I mean, he's running hard, man.
Yeah.
And now they're down to their basically third option, right?
Because Henderson was out.
Right. Henderson's out, and Cam Akers was supposed to be their starter. Remember that. So this is a big deal that he's been able to elevate his game, and they've adapted to him. But also in the pass pro, I mean, he's scanning across and making big blocks. So when you have a back that understands protection like that, you gotta know who to get, and then you got to go make the collision happen on the opposite side of the quarterback. You see him like start on the right side of the quarterback and then scan across the protection and go blow somebody up because it's a blitzing backer or safety. You got to know who it is, and then you got to have confidence where that guy's coming from. So you got to go hit him on the other side where it's not in the quarterback's like vicinity, right? You got to go make that collision happen closer to the line of scrimmage, and he's doing it consistently. It's really fun to watch because he wasn't supposed to be that guy for him. They just got him.
You know, it's interesting, too. When the Rams got Sony Michel from New England, I had talked to somebody close to the Rams, and he said the one reason they liked making a deal for him, they knew he was well coached.
Oh, he's so smart.
Yeah.
He's so smart, and he runs hard. He understands, hey, I'm not going to be the feature guy, but I can come in and pick my spots.
Excellent
like
two-back.
Yeah, excellent two-back. But when you talk about the Cardinals, I felt like the game – the Rams really pulled away after halftime. They score the big splash touchdown to Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
Then they get the interception. Boom, turn that into another 7 points. That's when the game started to get like, oh boy, we got to scratch and claw and try and catch up to these guys. And it looked like, you know, the Los Angeles Rams just got a little too far out in front, like comfortable enough. All right, our defense is active. We're good. We're going to hold them here. We're going to run the ball. We're going to milk this clock out and just choke them out for the rest of the game.
I want you to explain something. So, and I had this conversation briefly with Trent Dilfer yesterday. I said, I like Jimmy Garoppolo more than other people. He's got a very quick release, but he tends to hold the ball a little long. And I don't know, maybe I don't want to make Kyle mad. I don't want to make a mistake because Kyle's pretty acute in his personality.
Sure.
But then when you get Jimmy in that 2:15 left in the game situation where,
lights out.
Mark, he's better in the 2-minute drive. I always felt Eli Manning, strangely, I trusted him more with 2:10 left than I did in the second quarter.
Like,
explain it.
It's like Mr. October, Reggie Jackson.
Right.
Like solid during the season, but full count, you know, game 5 of the World Series, you know that dude's getting on base and he's going to bat some runs in. Like that's who he was, Mr. October. When it's on the line, when everything matters, that dude's going to show up and he's going to be at his best. And Jimmy's proven to do that. Remember the crazy game against the Packers? He took him down and won the game.
He
the
absolutely
game was
did.
over.
And again, like last night, he made big throws on the clock. And you know the other thing, he knows who to go to. He doesn't waste any time. It's George Kittle 1 and Debo 2.
Oh, yeah. And his backs, too. He's fine throwing to the halfbacks. He understands. He's been around one of the best 2-minute quarterbacks in Tom Brady early in his career. Like, go back and watch Brady's first Super Bowl. The one pass that was like over 10 yards, I want to say, was to Deion Branch on a deep cross. Everything else was to Falk underneath. And you don't think about that. All you think about is the guy raising the trophy at the end. And, wow, what a great game he played. And, wow. But that was it. It was check down after check down after check down because the defense is blowing out of there in their 2-minute mode and they don't want to get beat over the top.
That's right.
Boom. So the halfback's on it. Look at the Detroit Lions 2 weeks ago. It's the same thing in that drive. I mean, he hit on a 3rd and 10, he hit the halfback and he scampers for 10 yards and gets out of bounds, new set of downs, and now we're really rolling. So Jimmy just knows that. He knows what to do, and he understands his matchups, especially if they do get the occasional man-to-man and 2-minute after a stop clock, an incomplete pass, or you go out of bounds. You huddle up. A lot of times the defense will dial up their pressure or whatever, and he knows. In man-to-man, it's backs and tight ends. I'll get to my receivers later, but it's backs and tight ends, especially when you have a tight end like George Kittle.
Good stuff. More with Mark in a second. Mark Sanchez is mad with me because I thought he was 38 years old. He's like 35. It's not... I am America's uncle.
Done. We are done.
Well, I mean...
Can you divorce your uncle? I'd like
By
to.
the way, I don't even know how old you are. She has perfect skin, so she could be...
Guys, it's on the internet. It's not a secret anymore.
How old are you now?
I'm 34 years old. I'll be 35 in a month.
By the way, between the two of you, you've never had a pimple. It's discouraging for the rest of us.
That's not true.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
I got a 7th grade picture with...
Okay, with one. Okay, great. So we were saying this earlier about Micah Parsons. I would give him Defensive Player of the Year. There are
not just rookie.
No. I mean, I think
okay,
Defensive
good.
Player of the Year. I think he's unblockable. He and T.J. Watt, like, their motors are different. And I was asking you during the break, I said, you're all pro athletes. I mean, you were the best athlete in high school in your county. And you were one of the best athletes in the state. And it's like the idea that you guys all play together, and then there's this one guy, it's like, nobody can block him. Yeah. It, like that's the Jordan Kobe thing. Like, there's like maybe at any one time there's 5 of these in a league.
Sure.
Micah Parsons looks like one of those guys. So go back to all your years in football. Who was that guy for you?
Quickly, I feel like Micah Parsons reminds me when Vaughn came in the league, because he was a couple years after me, either a year or 2 after me. And I remember he just took over the league. And he was one of those guys where you'd go like seek out his clips just to like check him, like, who's this? You know, there's all this buzz about this guy. Who is this guy? And you'd watch him like, whoa. Guy's legit, man. And he's 20 years old.
Well, should have been Super Bowl. Was he a Super Bowl MVP? I mean, that's insane for a defensive player.
And he just like took over games, and you're like, God, he's not even that big, but he's just a monster. But as far as the most special type player I've been around, it's got to be Reggie Bush.
Like, give me a USC example.
I mean, he was the locker next to me. One, he's just like
jacked,
Adonis, like chiseled. And so fast, so quick, so explosive. But he was just there after every workout, doing something. Extra lifts, extra conditioning, extra everything. I'm like, God, this guy's just going to, like, fall over and bend over and, like, pass out one day. Like, there's no way he can keep this up. And I'd watch him my entire redshirt freshman year. We'd run 110 sprints, right? You start on the goal line and go through the opposite back of the end zone. I mean, he's beating guys by 20 yards with a 25-pound weight vest on. Just smoking dudes. Just boom, gone. Just pulling away from them, digging. And, like, doesn't coast at any point, just full sprint.
They say Jerry Rice was like that.
And back to the line of scrimmage, back to the goal line, like, immediately. I was like, whoa, this guy is insane. I mean, he'd run all the way to the goal line every rep in practice. All the way to the goal line, sprint back, get back in the huddle, do it again, make somebody look silly. He made better plays in practice than he did in games. And he had some special games. I mean, won the Heisman now. So it's like, it was incredible to watch. It was so funny because he'd catch a ball out in the flat, and you'd see, like, my roommate, Brian Cushing.
Was All-American.
Oh, yeah. And he's, like, out there in the flat. He's like, we'd be watching the film, and he's like, well, what do you want me to do there? I'm like, well, obviously you're not going to tackle him. He goes, nobody can tackle that guy. Like, one-on-one in open space with Reggie? It's like, good luck, dude. I had already moved on to the next play.
That's funny. So you're calling Washington Eagles this week. So Buffalo has no run game. They're circling the drain. Philadelphia is all run.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not. And it's interesting. In a passing league, Philadelphia and Buffalo are the exact opposite. One's got a 6'6" quarterback. The other's got a running quarterback. But this morning, I'm not sure who's a better football team.
When you get late in the season, you got to be able to run the ball. Got to play defense. I mean, to make a run in the playoffs, to really go, you got to have those two things. It's just like Denver last week. They showed it. They ran it almost 50 times, and they should. That's the way they're built. Timely completions, it's rushing attempts and completions. You add those up with turnovers, you're going to win games. That's just a formula. You're going to win the games. And so for Buffalo right now, they have 2 good backs.
Yeah, you like Moss and Singletary.
I think Moss is great. I think Singletary's great. They can both run it. They can both catch it. I mean, I don't see the disconnect there. I mean, up front, it hasn't been perfect. But, they've kind of resigned themselves to just airing it out. Like, I don't even think they handed it off in the first quarter last week or something. There was
barely in the first half.
Yeah, so if that's the approach and that's who you are, that's fine. But when you hit that blizzard and windstorm and, that freezing cold game against the Patriots, and they said, okay, we'll run it 50 times. So what? I mean, you see what happens. And so they got in a shootout with Tampa, and they came up a little bit short. So you'd like to be able to control the game, and you have to do that with a good run game and some defense. But your run game keeps their offense off the field. It just drains the clock and gains you yards if it's an effective run game. So you have to be able to do it.
Jimmy Johnson said this yesterday. He goes, the 2 things I always liked about run games. One, if you ran the ball in games, it meant you ran it a lot in practice.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes your defensive front much more physical. He goes, secondly, He goes, everybody talked about the Cowboys and all of our stars, but the reason we were number one on defense is our defense was well rested because we just, with Emmett,
the long, sustaining drive. Oh,
right.
yeah.
And so, like, when you look at Buffalo sometimes, I feel like you're seeing this a little with Dallas and Dak now. A lot of 3-and-outs when the offense isn't humming. And it's not that Dallas's defense isn't great. You can only be on the field for about 28 minutes, and guys, they're done. By the way, you did the Broncos game last week, and they're 7-6. And I said this earlier this year. People gave me crap. I have a minute left. I contend they're the Tampa of last year. If you gave them the right quarterback, you'd look up and go,
ooh.
Do you like?
Yeah, not quite in the receiving court. They're really good, but,
corners,
Godwin and AB and Evans. I mean, that's a nasty receiving.
So they have
court
Cortland Sutton.
They have Sutton,
Judy,
Jerry Judy,
Hamler,
Tim Patrick.
What's the Penn State kid?
KJ Hamler, but he's out.
Yeah, he's out.
So, they're close. It's close. I wouldn't give them that title yet. They're there.
But do you like their personnel?
I like Javonte Williams is who I like. And that Quinn Miners, their right guard rookie he's like Wisconsin Whitewater or something like that.
Yeah.
That dude is a throwback. Him and Javonte Williams are complete throwback players. Like they should have played in the 80s. Like no stretching, just run out on the field and blow somebody up. They are impressive.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch.
All right. Great seeing you. I don't know if you heard, USC hired a new football coach.
Let's go.
Mark, and the recruiting is tomorrow.
The signing day, right?
Well, there's 2 signing days.
Oh, this is the early one.
Yeah, so I'm not going to give away in the intel. Tomorrow will be fine. They're going to sign about 10 to 12 guys.
Okay.
Keep your eye when they're in the running with other big schools for a player, and the player says, I'm not going to sign tomorrow. I'm going to sign in February.
That's good.
That's very good for USC.
We'll take it.
That means, listen, I want to come here, but you got to hire a position coach for this position or that position. Then I'll come there.
There we go.
That's a little intel right there. You're not getting that. You're not getting that in the shows. All these shows of this network. A lot of inside stuff. 38-year-old Mark Sanchez.
Oh wow.
No, 35-year-old.
35.
It's go either way.
I'm done.
It's a go either way discussion. Hi everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.